Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for joining the Year 7 Supervisor Orientation for the AHOC program. You're currently listening to Part 3 of the webinar series. This is Janelle McCoy, one of the Associate Directors at Hunger Free America with the AHOC program. I am responsible for managing collaborations with our partners. Before we get into the presentation today, I once again want to thank you for your partnership and time and for listening to these recordings and for becoming oriented to the Anti-Hunger and Opportunity Corps program. Part 3 of our series today is titled VADs, SMs, and OSOTs, Why We Have Them and How You Craft Them. Today's presentation is going to provide you guidance on how to complete the VAD, supplemental matrices, and on-site and orientation and training document. Before we can talk about how you craft and complete a VAD, it is important to understand a bit about the reporting structure for the AHOC program, as well as for CNCS. The VADs and SMs are directly tied to the reporting needs for members to report to CNCS and USDA FNS. Our request for partner applications and reporting requirements and the reporting structure that CNCS has created is based on their strategic plan. In this plan, CNCS developed 4 strategic goals and evaluating its performance and executing its mission of improving lives, strengthening communities, and fostering civic engagement through service and volunteering. In order to relate the impact that CNCS has on communities throughout the country, they need to have a universal reporting system to be able to tell their universal impact. Thus, each VISTA project that receives resources from CNCS is required to report on what CNCS calls performance measures. In addition to each VISTA project, all AmeriCorps and CNCS projects report on various performance measures. For AHOC, we report on CNCS performance measures found under Goal 1 and Goal 3 of their strategic plan. For Goal 1, our impact area is Healthy Futures, which focuses on independent living, long-term hunger, childhood obesity, and healthcare access. If you'd like to review the CNCS strategic plan and the performance measures they're tracking, please visit www.nationalservice.gov/resources/performance measures. What we want you to take away from the CNCS strategic plan is the knowledge that the performance measures found on your member's VAD and SM comes directly from the CNCS strategic plan. And it is important that your members report on these measures correctly so that AHOC can show CNCS that we are making an impact in our communities. All right, let's talk a little bit about the AHOC performance measures. A performance measure is the value or characteristic that measures progress towards goals and is also used to improve progress and reduce risk and improve cost effectiveness. There are 2 types of performance measures that are required by CNCS. There are what we call output performance measures and outcome performance measures. Output performance measures are usually the easiest to track. Those are the number of community members who participated in a program or a number of organizations that completed a community assessment outlining goals and recommendations of the VISTA member, and these usually can be done quickly through a survey or through one-on-one interactions with your partners. Whereas outcome performance measures are a lot harder to track and usually require a little more forethought and planning. On collecting the data, outcome performance measures evaluate the number of people who attended the training and how many are going to use the knowledge from that training to implement in their lives. Outcome performance measures just really involve evaluating again and going a little bit more in depth into what exactly are the outcomes from the training and what outcomes from those are you tracking. The performance measures we have are nationwide, and they help to quantitatively evaluate our programs and how they are impacting communities. All of our partners do different things and have different visions and missions, but the performance measures allow us to support each other, evaluate areas of weakness, and create uniform evaluations. And we use those to make sure that we establish and maintain effective and efficient programs. Even though we do have different visions and different missions, we are all working toward the same goal of ending hunger in America. So why and how do these performance measures help you? A performance measure is a great way to get feedback on programs, spot and correct problems, strengthen your programming, and determine where to allocate limited resources. The Corporation for National and Community Service has been implementing VISTA programs for many years, and they know how to evaluate capacity building programs, so they utilize the performance measures and tracking the performance measures that CNCS has shouldn't be looked at as just a requirement for the AHOC program. It should be looked at as a way to evaluate whether or not utilizing the VISTA resource is the best for your organization and whether or not your VISTAs impact your communities in the way that you would like. So how are the performance measures determined, and why do we have specific performance measures? The performance measures are found on the supplemental matrices. Once you submit a VAD and SM, you will also be outlining what performance measures your VISTA member will track. There are mandatory performance measures that all the members in the VISTA program must report on, and then there are voluntary performance measures, meaning you get to pick or choose whether or not your VISTA will report on the additional performance measures. No matter what, if you assign the objective of assignment on a VAD, you're automatically assigning the corresponding performance measure. Now, the performance measure language and what we are tracking has already been determined by Hunger Free America and CNCS based on our submitted project application and on guidance that we have received from CNCS about what they would like us to report on. When we crafted the VAD template and supplemental matrices for our partners, we assigned the corresponding performance measures that will evaluate each objective of assignment based on this guidance from CNCS. Now, once we determine what performance measures we're going to track and what objective, we cannot change those performance measures. However, we can change the anticipated scope of work, meaning how the member is going to accomplish the assigned performance measure. So let's talk about the expectations and reporting when it comes to our AHOC members and their AHOC supervisors, or yourselves. So let's start with the members. Now, these performance measures that you find on the VADs and SMs are in the reporting system that we have for our members, which is called America Learns. So the members report on their performance measures in America Learns via the reporting and reflection log every 2 weeks. We expect them to fill out their logs in a timely manner. The exact same language that you see on VADs and SMs relating to the performance measures is what a member sees in their America Learns account, reporting and reflection log. Once we receive the VADs from you, we use those to tailor their reporting and reflection logs on America Learns. So they should complete and report on every measure listed in America Learns. All AHOC members are required to report on the anti-poverty and capacity building matrix. I'm sure all of you are aware of how important reporting is to a project. Your members should reach out to their assigned VISTA leader if they are confused on how to report. Our VISTA leaders go in and check if your member has completed their reports, and if your member is ever missing 2 or more timesheets or biweekly reports, their leaders will call them. You will also receive an email from myself just asking you if you can politely remind them to fill out their logs. It's also very important that they let us know that you or they let us know that you're going to be updating the VAD so that we can update the corresponding log as well and make sure that we seek approval from CNCS for the VAD to be modified. So let's get to the responsibilities for AHOC supervisors when it comes to reporting. Number 1, our expectations are that you assist and ensure your member in collecting the required data for each performance measure. Please know that most of the people who are coming into the VISTA program are very new to the idea of evaluation, and many of them read the language in the performance measures or they read the VADs and they find them to be very daunting and confusing. They often aren't sure on how they should go about reaching those milestones. So we really rely on our sub-site supervisors to assist the VISTA members to understand what they should be reporting on, because at the end of the day, you outline what they should be reporting on in the supplemental matrices. So please put tangible targets for your VISTA member in the supplemental matrices to make sure that you explain to them and ensure that they understand what the target is and how they should go about reporting on that target. Number 2, ensure that the VAD accurately reflects the work of the VISTA, and of course notify Hunger Free America if there are any changes in the scope of work. As I mentioned when talking about the reporting expectations and member reports, their America Learns reporting and reflection log is crafted for each member and is based upon what is listed in the VADs and supplemental matrices that they've been assigned. So if you add an additional scope of work, such as additional goals or objectives, and you do not inform the AHOC staff at Hunger Free America, we will not add and have those reporting reflection logs updated and accurately reflecting the questions that relate to what the members are working on. So it's really important that you keep us in the loop if you want to add additional VAD goals or change VAD goals through your members' work, or if you're anticipating a change in the scope of work. Obviously, we expect you to provide support and guidance to VISTAs in completing their R&R logs, and by this, we mean making sure that they are in America Learns every 2 weeks and giving them the time every 2 weeks to complete these reports. It shouldn't be too hard for the members to complete their reports if they are tracking throughout the 2-week reporting period. It should only take them at max maybe 30 minutes to an hour. Your support is vital to the continuation of our program, so please provide the support and guidance to them so that they can complete their reports. Lastly, just like our members, we do expect that supervisors will reach out to us if there's any confusion surrounding the collection of data. I'm happy to give you any information that you may need to properly guide your member. So let's talk about the VISTA assignment description, or the VAD, and the supplemental matrices, or SM. I know I mentioned these documents a few times, and you may be wondering what they are. The volunteer assignment descriptions and supplemental matrices are CNCS required. The VAD, in conjunction with the SMs, are a project plan for the VISTA member, and it basically states what the member is going to work on this year. So when you're completing the VAD, Please be realistic and make sure that you set the goals at what a person can reasonably accomplish in 365 days. The VAD is also a very powerful guide for planning and implementing most major responsibilities. You can use the VAD to help you create the list of qualities that you would like from a VISTA candidate. The VAD can also be used as an evaluation tool and can help you keep track of what progress your VISTA member is making during their year of service and what areas they may need support in. You can think of the VAD and the VAD as a contract between HFA and CNCS, and this basically means that this is what your members are going to be working on this year. Of course, we understand that scopes of work change, so please keep open communication with us, as I mentioned before, and let us know if these changes happen so that we can make sure there are accurate and up-to-date VAD and SMs for your VISTA. And for SMs, for each objective on the VAD instruction sheet, there is a corresponding goal on one of the supplemental matrices. So you'll need to set goals on the SMs for each of the objectives that you choose. So those goals will be numerical values, and you'll also describe what types of materials or how many organizations, for example, you'd like them to work with, or different things like that. All of the information is listed on the SM itself. In addition to that, all of the sites will have to submit the anti-poverty and capacity building supplemental matrix, which is required by CNCS. So before we get started on the VADs, we're going to go through about what steps you should take to complete the VADs, SMs, and on-site and orientation forms, or OSOTs. Now, step 1 will be to determine what AHOC goal should be assigned to your VISTA member. Now, each of you had to submit a request for partner or RFP application, and we granted you a VISTA member based on that RFP. Therefore, the VAD that you submit to us must include the original scope of work that you outlined in the proposal. Now, after hearing more about the goals today, if you want to expand the scope of work assigned to your VISTA member, you can, but the member must be working on what you originally outlined in your proposal in some capacity. So let's get started with the goals that AHOC has. Goal 1 is benefit access plans. The goal states, convene community leaders and members, including community and faith-based organizations and local public sector officials, to identify food resource participation barriers and develop a comprehensive anti-hunger plan to improve access in their communities. The objectives that fall under this category are develop and enhance collaborations between state agencies, community-based and other organizations, and low-income individuals to develop anti-hunger initiatives. Develop and enhance collaborations between state agencies administering SNAP, community-based and other organizations, and, if available, SNAP clients to identify barriers to food resource access in the community. Facilitate meetings between state agencies, nonprofit, and public sector organizations to facilitate collaboration and participation in benefits access plans. Build systems to conduct training and target materials for community and faith-based organizations to enhance the awareness of USDA programs. Improve the effectiveness of SNAP and other federal nutrition components through capacity building activities, such as recruiting, training, and/or managing volunteers. And lastly, to survey partners regarding capacity prior to and during VISTA assistance. So let's discuss a few examples of accepted activities for benefits access plans. All of these examples are different ones that our past members included on their VADs for our past partners included on their VADs for their members. So, some examples of related activities. Develop awareness materials for FNS programs. Partner with and train community organizations on how to conduct SNAP pre-screening assistance or provide SNAP services to clients. Develop and implement a social media campaign to raise awareness of FNS programs. Conduct a community assessment to identify barriers to FNS programs, and then create a comprehensive guide on how organizations can address these barriers. So basically, if your member is going to be working on addressing barriers to any USDA FNS program, then you should complete this VAD and SM for your members. All right, let's move on to the second goal, which is volunteer recruitment. The goal states, build systems to conduct volunteer recruitment, information sharing, and training for community and faith-based organizations to disseminate information about food programs and resources. Train volunteers to conduct screenings that result in connecting underserved individuals and families with food programs and resources. And as you can see on the slide, these are the objectives that were included on the VAD instruction sheet that fall under volunteer recruitment. So recruit and train community volunteers and/or organizational staff to assist in improving access, enhancing awareness, and continuing the program after VISTA resources are no longer available for support. Build systems to conduct volunteer recruitment, information sharing, and training for community and faith-based organizations to disseminate information about benefit and/or employment and training resources. To create and revise recruitment systems to organizations' needs to increase the number of community volunteers that will be recruited and managed. And to develop and update tools, provide information, resources, and materials, enabling the passage of VISTA Managed Volunteer Program to host organization and/or partnering agencies, including templates, manuals, curriculum, and/or educational supplies. So some examples of related activities that members have done in the past are to develop and implement volunteer recruitment strategies, create volunteer resources, including volunteer handbooks, manuals, informational materials, etc. Develop or update volunteer and training curriculums. You should only assign this VAD and SM if the member will be creating or enhancing volunteer recruitment, training, and/or management systems. So let's move on to Goal 3, which is SNAP employment and training. So this goal states, work with state agencies administering SNAP to promote the SNAP employment and training and similar employment and training focused programs in order to connect low-income households with services that increase their ability to obtain and retain employment. VISTA members will develop and enhance collaborations between state agencies administering SNAP, community organization, and private sector employers, as well as work with state workforce agencies and community organizations to improve the effectiveness of the SNAP employment and training components. These objectives include work with state agencies that promote the employment and training program in order to connect low-income households with services that increase their ability to obtain and retain employment, to develop and enhance collaborations between state agencies administering SNAP, community-based organizations, and private sector employers to identify barriers in obtaining and retaining employment in the community, to build systems to conduct training and target materials for community and faith-based organizations to enhance awareness of SNAP ENT services, and to work with trained organizations in tracking the number of adults who received assistance due to the VISTA implemented system. So some examples of related activities are to convene a work group of partner organizations to discuss SNAP employment and training and how that will affect accessing food benefits in the community. Train partners and staff on the SNAP employment and training program. Connect anti-hunger organizations with SNAP employment and training resources and information, and including providing referrals to agencies that work with a SNAP employment and training program, and to integrate SNAP employment and training resources and information into SNAP awareness processes. All right, let's move on to farmers markets and EBT. So this goal states improve access to and enhance awareness of nutritious food options available through farmers markets. So these are the objectives that are related to farmers markets and EBT. To develop or enhance the capacity of SNAP authorized farmers markets. To educate individuals and families utilizing USDA benefits about their ability to use their benefits at farmers markets, and to work with local farmers markets to become SNAP authorized retailers. And examples of related activities include raise awareness about farmers markets accepting FNS benefits, assist farmers markets to become SNAP authorized sellers, and to draft a best practice guide to assist markets to accept FNS benefits. And please ignore that typo, I'm sorry about that. All right, let's move on to Goal 5, which is nutrition education. This goal states, provide nutrition education information and opportunities for low-income community members with particular emphasis on SNAP clients. There's one objective that relates to nutrition education, and it's on the screen. It's to develop or enhance programs to provide nutrition education information and opportunities for low-income community members with a particular emphasis on SNAP clients. All right, let's move on to examples of related member activities for nutrition education. They are develop nutrition education curriculums for adults and children, create nutrition education informational materials, including healthy recipes, recruit and train volunteers to provide nutrition education classes, conduct awareness to promote healthy eating, and create recipe cards for distribution to clients. So, as you noticed, I included examples of member activities. Just a side note, for all of the different goals, those are not the only activities that you can include. Those are just examples of activities that our members have done in the past, and hopefully they'll be able to help you to pick the correct goal and to guide you on what your members can and can't do. All right, and going through all of that, I know it may be a lot, so please know that I'm always available as the Director of Collaborations to help you if you're struggling to identify what goals to complete, and please reach out to me directly. All right, let's move on to step 2, which is fill out the VAD. Once you determine what goals you want to assign to your member, you can start completing the VAD document. Let's look at an example of what a potential partner might include in their RFP. So I just took an example of a line that was included in the past, which was engage coalitions and partners to identify barriers to food security and develop locally driven solutions to bridge service gaps. So that was only one example of what they wanted to do. But I wanted to show you how to apply the language that you used in your RFP into the VAD by selecting an objective, which was included on the VAD information sheet that we gave you with the VAD template. So what I did is I went through the VAD instruction sheet and I took the objective that best fit the description above. So before you start to fill out the VAD, you just need to identify what your goals are. So I chose for the objective that I thought that fit best was develop and enhance collaborations between state agencies administering SNAP, community-based, and other organizations, and if available, SNAP clients to identify barriers to food resource access in the community. And that objective falls under the Benefits Access Plan goal. So I just took a couple of member activities that I had listed on the Benefits Access goal slide to just show you what member activities would fall under this objective. So a couple of activities that someone doing this objective might do would be to conduct a community assessment to identify barriers to FNS programs and then create a comprehensive guide on how organizations can address these barriers. And once the guide is completed, share it with partner organizations. So using this example, you would pick and choose which objectives your member will be working on and include the member activities that you would like for your member to do during their year of service. And just remember, the screenshot that I included on the slide is not the full VAD. It's only the part that you'll need to fill out, which is if you look at the VAD template, all of the areas that you'll need to fill out are highlighted. So the time period I included for this objective of assignment would be June 2017 to June 2018. But of course, you can set whatever time periods you'd like on your VADs and for the objectives, as long as you think that your member will be able to complete those things in the amount of time allotted on the VAD. All right, let's move on to SMs. So each VAD has a corresponding SM that must be completed. The SM is an evaluation tool used to monitor your members' progress in completing their VADs and the ultimate goal for the VISTA year. The Anti-Hunger and Capacity Building SM is mandatory for all members, and there is no corresponding VAD. All right, so now we're just going to look at the different goals and see what performance measures will be listed on the SM for that goal. So to the left, you could see the goal language that I read off before when I was discussing benefits access plans. And the performance measures that are on the corresponding SMs are the number of organizations that complete a community assessment, identifying goals and recommendations with VISTA member assistance, the number of new systems and business processes, technology, performance management, training, etc., or enhancements to existing systems and business processes put in place, and the number of organizations reporting that capacity building services provided by the VISTA member has help to make their organization more effective. All right, let's move on to volunteer management. So you can see on the left, that's the goal language. And the performance measure that's related to this is the number of new or enhanced systems and business processes put in place. Also, underneath, you can see additional measurements. And these are measurements that are actually included on the capacity building matrix. So the number of community volunteers recruited, the hours of service contributed by community volunteers who were recruited by the member, the number of community volunteers managed, and the hours of service contributed by community volunteers who were managed by the VISTA member. Let's move on to SNAP employment and training. And to the left, you can see the goal language. And the performance measures are the number of organizations that complete a community assessment, identifying goals and recommendations with VISTA member assistance, the number of new systems and business processes, technology, performance management, training, etc., or enhancements to existing systems and business processes put in place, the number of organizations reporting that capacity building services provided by their VISTA member has helped to make their organization more effective. And let's move on to farmers markets and EBT. The performance measures are the number of farmers markets assisted and the number of member created or member enhanced how-to/best practices guides, member produced training, systems and business processes related to farmers markets and EBT put in place. An important note about farmers markets and EBT, and this was also something listed in the Year 7 RFP, is that we expect that our sites are working with farmers markets that either have EBT established or they're working to help get EBT established at those farmers markets. So you can please contact me if you aren't sure about that, and we can make sure to discuss and make sure that the farmers markets that you're trying to work with are ones that CNCS and AHOC would find beneficial for the program. And let's move on to Goal 5, which is nutrition education. The performance measures for this are the number of nutrition education related activities to promote healthier eating, and the number of created or enhanced how-to/best practice guides related to SNAP and nutrition education. The key thing to note about nutrition education is that there should be a particular focus on SNAP clients. And as you can see on the left side, it's actually listed in the goal language. And then let's just discuss the mandatory AHOC performance measures. These are assigned via the Anti-Poverty and Capacity Building Supplemental Matrix and is mandatory for all AHOC members and sites to report. So these performance measures are the number of individuals receiving support, services, education, and or referrals to alleviate long-term hunger, the number of beneficiaries that receive services as a result of capacity building efforts of the VISTA member, the number of new beneficiaries from one or more targeted or underserved populations that received services as a result of capacity building efforts, the number of families assisted in applying for SNAP due to the VISTA member efforts, the average benefit amount of families receiving SNAP due to VISTA member efforts, and the number of staff and or community volunteers that receive training of one or more types as a result of capacity building services provided by the VISTA member. As you noticed before, that was what I mentioned in the volunteer on the volunteer slide. It's included in some of those performance measures as well. So I've noticed with working a lot of partners that there have been some sites that have difficulty in finding out how much money or a benefit amount that families are receiving from SNAP due to VISTA member efforts. So just try your best to figure out a way to get that information. If it's really not possible for you to get that information for different reasons, for example, the information goes directly to the state and there's no feedback from the state, or they don't send a report of the average benefit amount to your organization, then on that performance measure on the matrix, you can just put NA, and you can just let us know the reason. But please try your best to have a number for all of the performance measures that we include in the capacity building and supplemental matrix, along with all of the supplemental matrices that apply to the different objectives that you choose. So hopefully to help make this a little clearer, I'm going to I actually filled out supplemental matrices using the objective that I discussed earlier. So as you can see, I filled out the highlighted portions, portions in yellow on the benefits access plan, since that's what the objective was from earlier. And I filled out section 1.1 since it corresponds with the objective that we discussed earlier. And I just included the description of data collection, which I actually just used what was listed in the example above. So a 10-question survey administered through SurveyMonkey. And the target performance that I set for this imaginary VISTA was to have at least 20 partner organizations fill out the survey. So as supervisors, you are responsible for filling out the yellow highlighted portions on the SMs that correspond with the objective that your member has included in their VAD. This should be done before the member starts, and your SMs should be submitted to us with these sections filled out. As for the green sections, this is where you will track your members' progress during their year of service. It will also help you to discuss your members' progress with them and to aid them in filling out their R&R logs. I just wanted to talk about this a little bit. The supplemental matrices might seem a little bit repetitive and things like that, but in my experience, a lot of the members find it helpful for their supervisors to go over the supplemental matrices and goals with them during their check-ins, whether it be weekly, monthly. I just suggest that you guys commit to going over the supplemental matrices and going over their VAD goals with them often, just so that they can make sure they know what you expect and they can see their progress towards the different target performances that they have listed in the supplemental matrices. So as I mentioned before, I only included one objective as an example in the VAD. So for you, you might have more than one supplemental matrix to fill out. So you just take the different objectives that you list and compare them to the slides I have in this presentation, and then you'll fill out the accompanying supplemental matrix. You should have all of those supplemental matrices since I provided those in an email to you a few weeks ago. But if you're for some reason unsure of which supplemental matrix to fill out, please contact me and I'll be happy to point you in the right direction. All right, let's move on to the third document that you'll need to fill out. And each site is required to provide their AHOC member with an on-site orientation and training. This document is, here's a screenshot of the document. And this document is to outline to HFA and to CNCS how your VISTA member is going to be acclimated to their service site. Now that you have completed the VAD and SM, what skills and trainings is your VISTA member going to need to be successful? Please write down those skills and the trainings that the VISTA members are going to need. And as you can see, the format for the OSOT is pretty straightforward. You just include the date, time, and the title of the presentation, and the trainer or presenter. We do ask that the description of subject matter be a little more specific so we can get an idea of what your member will be learning. And we could possibly suggest those types of trainings to supervisors in the future. And to define what the objectives of that are going to be. Just so you know, AHOC also offers a few trainings to our members, including the AHOC Big Picture, Policies and Procedures, and Reporting webinars, and they're very similar to the one that you're receiving today. Their VISTA leaders are actually the ones that give them those trainings, and their leaders are also a great resource for them during the year. So don't feel the need to necessarily go into that information, since we'll make those trainings mandatory for our members. However, some examples of things you could include would be to give them background and a history of your organization, to introduce them to staff or to other partner organizations that they'll be working with, and just give them basic trainings on whatever types of computer programs that they might need to use during those first couple weeks. So think through what info they'll need in their first few weeks or month to help them start off a successful year and to be able to continue successfully throughout their year of service. Just to note, this was actually taken from a great course online on the VISTA campus about the OSOT. Developing an OSOT that is appropriate and relevant to all VISTA members in one project can be challenging, especially since sites are often in different locations, can differ by project focus, and member experiences vary even within one program. Another challenge is striking a good balance between providing enough information to help the VISTA begin in their new role and not overwhelming them on their first day or week. On-site orientation and training prepares VISTAs to start their assignments with confidence by delivering them the foundation, direction, and skills that will allow them to have a successful VISTA term. Also, one important note that I learned while at the supervisor training that VISTA provided me is that it's really important for you all to, especially if you have a member that's not from the community, just try to give them some more background on the community and things they might need to know in order to be able to properly carry out their VISTA role. All right, let's move on to step 5. So once you complete all of that complicated paperwork, the VAD, SM, and OSOT forms, please submit them to me, Janelle McCoy, at jmccoy@hungerfreeamerica.org by the due date expressed in my correspondence. I just included that and it wasn't specific because I'm going to be sharing this orientation in the future. We usually do have some recruitment later in the year, but since if you're a year 7 site supervisor with a member starting sometime during the summer of 2017, then your paperwork should get back to me no later than April 5th. And then after that, we're just going to await final approval. The VAD and SMs must be approved by CNCS and HFA. You'll be notified when your VAD is approved, and you'll be provided a final copy. The copy may also have requested changes or adjustments. So I guess please be patient with us when it comes to this. There might be some nitty-gritty in language and stuff like that, but usually if you commit to what you listed in the RFP, the VADs are usually approved. And then after those are approved, then you'll be able to start recruitment. Soon, Elizabeth Libby McClayton will be giving you a training on recruitment. So please attend that. It's a mandatory requirement that we have for our partner supervisors. All right, and lastly, I just wanted to thank you all for joining me today and for attending this training on VADs, SMs, and OSOTs. So I'm going to end the training now. If you have any questions regarding how to fill out any of those documents after watching this training, please feel free to contact me and I'll be happy to clear anything up. All right, thank you. Have a great day.